You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
Welcome to Everyday Practices Today. This is your co-host, Reagan Robertson, here with my very special co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson. How are you doing today?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing all right. How are you?
Woo! We're kicking it off a little bit different today because I have asked for this special guest, Dr. Meghna Dassani, to join us. You can't see my face, but I hope you can see my enthusiasm. I've been with PDA for about 10 years, and Chad has been with PDA for just a hair shorter than that. And during that time, I have known Meghna and watched her practice grow up over the last decade as well. She inspires me. She is a role model for other dentists. I am particularly passionate and excited to have her on today because she focuses on sleep apnea. She has a very personal, passionate story about it. And children, being National Children's Dental Health Month this February, I thought it would be a wonderful time to catch up with our friend, our PDA tribe member, Dr. Meghna Dassani.
Hey guys, what's up? This is exciting to get to talk to you.
Hi,
Yay.
Dr. Dassani. And you're down in Houston, Texas. Is that right?
That is correct. Houston, Texas. We're actually right by NASA, so we get all the cool stuff.
Oh, very cool.
Oh my God. Do you hear rockets taking off?
Well, no, because the command center is in Houston. The rockets take off in Florida, but
Right.
yeah.
The Johnson Space Center and whatnot.
Yes.
So I just want to remind the listeners that Dr. Dassani received her initial dental training in Mumbai, India, where she graduated in 96 with her BDS. And after working as an associate for a year, then she established her own practice in Mumbai. And then she successfully operated this practice for 6 years before moving to the US. And then she received her dental training from Boston University and graduated in 2005. And she was an editor for the BU chapter of the Adhd group and the Adhd magazine, The Explorer. Funny name. And at BU, she was actively involved in research project and enjoyed helping communities surrounding the dental school. And Dr. Dassani has practiced in the Houston area ever since as an associate for 5 years before acquiring her practice right now. And she's part of the ADA, the AGD, the Seattle Study Club of Southeast Houston, and she regularly attends continuing courses and seminars with a focus on aesthetic dentistry. She also has an associate fellowship with the World Clinical Laser Institute. That would be fun to talk about. We want to talk to you today about sleep and stuff like that. So why don't we start, Reagan? Tell us your story about how this hits you personally.
So my sister, she's in her 30s. She's in her late 30s now, not knowing anything about sleep apnea until, oh goodness, recently. I would say the last 6 years is when I've become knowledgeable about sleep apnea. And a lot of the educational courses that I attend through my dentistry connection has really given me a lot of education. So understanding through Meghna and some of the articles that she's written, the podcasts that she's produced, I've learned that children are also at risk for sleep apnea. And when she started explaining the connection to ADHD, the snoring, the restful nights, the night terrors, all of these things, I put everything together in my head and realized that my sister, had to 100% have had sleep apnea when she was growing up. She definitely had this snoring. You could almost hear her choking, and she had food intolerances. There were all sorts of things, but it wasn't until she was in her early 30s that she was diagnosed and has a CPAP. And I can't tell you how life-changing that was for her, for me to experience her physical and mental transformation. It was astounding to me. And so you hit me, Meghna, right in the heart when I realized that children can suffer from this, and that, once we have that knowledge, it's our knowledge to share that with others. So that's my personal connection to this. And I want to give our listeners every opportunity that they can to be in front of knowledge like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was just getting my thoughts through it. I was like, wow, because you know what? This is something I hear every day, every single day. And it's heartbreaking that kids don't get diagnosed, mainly because of a lack of awareness. And we also hear, they're just kids. They're going to grow out of it. Or a lot of times we see kids being punished because parents or teachers think they're being bad, right? Quote unquote bad. There is no such thing as a bad kid. There is a tired kid. There is a kid that hasn't gotten enough rest. There is a kid that is so overwhelmed because their brain, the hormones, the neurological resetting that needs to happen when they sleep just doesn't happen. And these kids go through life and, like your sister, grow up into adults who don't know that feeling better is an option because this is their normal. And it breaks my heart. But yes, I'm so glad your sister was able to actually feel better, right? A whole new person.
Oh,
Dr.
absolutely.
Meghna, haven't you even noticed when you do this with adults that they say, I had no idea I was so tired until I actually got rest. And now, like, who knew that you were supposed to wake up rested? Isn't that so rewarding?
Yes. And it's so amazing because people think that pain is normal, right? They wake up with headaches, or they wake up with their neck or their jaw hurting from the clenching and grinding, trying to open their airway. And I was like, that's not normal. I had a hygienist that said she didn't know it wasn't normal for her neck to hurt because those were the muscles she strained trying to keep her airway open. It's just mind-boggling as to what we hear and what people think is actually okay when it's not.
Wow.
Can I admit something? I don't know what your podcast is about. Can you tell us about it? I'm guessing that it's focused on apnea and solutions to that, but tell us more.
Oh, absolutely. So it is called the Healthy Sleep Revolution podcast because that is what we're trying to do, start a revolution, get parents, providers, everybody involved. And, when I was setting this up, I thought for the longest time, I went back and forth, how do I want to do it? Who do I want to target? And I realized that as dentists, as a healthcare community, the MDs or whatever other specialty we may consider, we know about this. We have the knowledge. Well, we do have the knowledge. Let's put it that way.
We have the knowledge. We just need everyone else to.
Exactly.
There you go.
We just need for the everyday folks, our patients, everybody else, the community to know there is a solution. There is a reason why your child is behaving this way, or there's a reason why you feel this, or your body is connected to how everything ties in together. So when I started the podcast, the goal was my target audience actually is everyday people. It's moms, dads, grandparents. My daughters, my teenager actually has her friends that listen in. So it's funny because my child will come downstairs in the morning and go, my alarm went off in the middle of a REM cycle because I just could not wake up. But that was the goal, to raise awareness. And yes, I have healthcare providers tuning in, but I want parents to know that there are solutions. And there's there's different specialties that can help you. Your dentist being one, ENTs, whatever it is that you need to have addressed. So long answer there, but yeah. It's about raising awareness.
Do you, for doctors that are just getting into this and they want to know how to spread the word, do you go into schools? What type of marketing do you do to spread awareness outside of the practice?
At this point, nothing.
Ooh!
Everything we do is word of mouth. It's funny where people find us and how they find us, or even the podcast for that matter. But it's a much bigger problem than we realize. There are more people looking for answers than we know. And it's just, the response has been mind-blowing. Like, did I tell you guys we had to hire an associate? Finally?
Yay!
I believe I knew that, yeah.
Yeah, I had to just sit down and tell my team, I said, I can't do this. There isn't enough hours in the day for me to take the kind of care and attention that I want for my patients. So we had to get help. So
congratulations.
Yes, we are excited.
So tell us about the internal techniques then. For example, do you pull your team into this conversation? Do you pull your hygienists into this conversation? Walk some of our doctors through what that looks like with the internal pieces of education.
Anything sleep is team driven. I am a huge believer of that. Even in the classes that I teach, when I talk at seminars, study clubs, that is the first thing I try to tell doctors. Getting your team trained, involved, getting them on board is key. Because if you have 8 people talking about something, it has a much wider reach than I can as one single provider. So team is key. And it could start at different aspects of the practice. For example, the hygienist, right? Yes, we want to talk to our patients about brushing and flossing and good oral hygiene. There's only so much we're able to fuss at people for, right?
Right.
Let's be honest. But asking parents or even patients questions such as, how are you sleeping? Or have you noticed your child snores? Going over medical history. You talk about ADHD drugs. We had a patient in the practice, a mom that found us in one of those mom Facebook groups, and she was looking for answers for her kid they were getting ready to put him on medication. And there's a place for it. Some kids need it. Some people need it and absolutely get it. But I always tell them, get their sleep evaluated. As many as 50% of kids can get off of ADHD drugs if we just address their sleep issues. That's huge.
Wow. Say that statistic again.
As much as 50% of children may not need their ADHD drugs if we can address their sleep.
Meghna, that particular statistic is mind-blowing and should be shouted from the rooftops everywhere.
Yes.
I'm writing it down. That's cool.
Right. Neurologically speaking, we're holding a workshop next week, and I'm talking about communication, and what you're doing with bringing this type of education into the practice is a pattern interrupt. So you hit it kind of on the head there when you said, there's only so much kind of nagging we can do when you talk about the flossing and the brushing. And I mean, everybody knows when you go to the dentist, you're going to hear about that. And so your brain sort of shuts off. Your brain's a very efficient, processor of information. Right. And so to bring up the discussion of ADHD or sleep or snoring, I mean, that is a huge pattern interrupt that you're introducing into the practice. And as a patient, I could see that as being, wow, this doctor actually really, really cares about my whole body health here. I'm in relationship with this doctor now.
Correct. And you're actually saving lives, right? You're actually impacting lives, because who wants a grumpy kid at home? Who wants a child that is failing in school? Who wants an adult that does not have the energy to come home and play with his or her kids, or be in a good enough mood to have quality family time? And so much of this we can impact.
There is a quote. So for our listeners out there, Meghna Dassani was recently published in the Winter 2020 Do Life magazine. If you don't know what Do Life magazine is, Google it. We can put it in the show notes for you. It's an incredible resource for women entrepreneurs in the dental field. And I read your article. I got kind of an early copy, Meghna, and there were two quotes that stood out to me in your article, which is called Breathing Life into Our Future. And it was, he who has a why can endure anyhow. And the other was, there is little we cannot do when we are powered by a clear purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Have you shared with us your story in particular on what brought you to this?
So I actually got started with sleep apnea. When I did, it was with sleep apnea in adults at that point. And I'm the first to admit it was all out of a selfish cause. It was all because I did not want to lose something, or rather somebody. As a newlywed, we lost my father-in-law at the age of 54, which is super young.
Right.
And nobody knew why until I started to dig. And I quickly realized that sleep apnea was the cause for us losing him. But what was more devastating to me was the fact that, well, they were told it was genetic, and that all the men in our family, my husband's side of the family, died at a young age. And what really hit me hard was that my husband had accepted that fact. He was resigned to the fact. He was unfazed by the fact that he probably would also die at that age. We are 40, he's 46 this year. So, yeah, ain't going to happen on my watch, right?
No.
And that was actually what got me started, because I told him, I said, this day and age, and we've been married 18 years, so this day and age, you can't accept this. And that's actually what got me started. I had to look for answers. I needed to know the why, and then the what can I do to fix this. So you guys at PDA know me. Y'all have been through all of my CE. With, it's like, where can we find Meghna? She's at another CE now. But I looked for answers wherever I thought it made sense, and it did. So, I connected the whole Bale-Domin method with it, getting into sleep apnea. And then once you get into that, you're down that rabbit hole. There's no way out, because yes, I did this because I didn't want to have this impact my family any more than it already had. But I brought this back to the practice. We started talking to patients about it. How do you not? Because that is somebody else's dad. That is somebody else's wife. And as I love to say, my family grew, because now there were more people that I wanted to take care of, more people that I wanted to see them get better, wanted to see them feel better. I wanted these patients in my practice until I was ready to retire.
Yeah.
And then you hear these stories. You see these people come back with, they're just different in a better way. They're healthier. They look, their eyes are brighter. And it's just because they're getting better sleep. Their brain is getting more oxygen. So starting to treat adults, and I remember this day distinctly. We had this one gentleman walk into the practice. We made him an appliance. He was feeling amazing. He came in for a follow-up, and he said, I need you to make this for my grandson. I was like, okay, I'm thinking it's a grandson that's older. No, that child was 5 and was a terrible sleeper. The grandfather gave me all of the symptoms, and I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know much. I do know I cannot make that child the same appliance that you have, but I honestly don't know what I should be doing to help this kid. And that was the same time when I started teaching other dentists about how to implement sleep apnea for adults into their practice. And Christina, who is my office manager, has been with me since day one. She stopped me at one point and she said, Doc, do you think this is Avery? Avery is her 7-year-old and the sweetest child possible ever, but always had these dark circles under her eyes. She was always tired. We were always having to tell her, be nice, play better with your siblings. Right. And that just flipped the switch. I said, you know what? It probably is Avery. And there we go. One more rabbit hole to go down. And as I educated myself and as I learned, I knew what was going on with the kid, but what treatment options and how do I tie that into their growth is where it just opened up a whole new, I can't even describe what we see now. I can't. Let me just put it this way. My kids will walk into Target with me and go, Mom, that kid's a mouth breather. Right. Stop judging kids. But you raise that awareness and you see things which, if you don't know about it, you don't see it. But once you've seen it, you just can't unsee it.
Because there's a saturation, let's say, with caries, and you tell an adult, your kid has 4 cavities because they eat sugar all day and they swish Mountain Dew and they never brush, right? And the parent goes, I knew it. Yep, I've heard that before. I knew that was going to happen. See, Jimmy, I've told you, you need to, quit taking that Mountain Dew in your baby bottle, stuff like that. People have somewhat of an awareness. Now, whether that changes their attitudes or their behaviors, but they have an awareness of caries. When you mention to a patient, hey, I'm just kind of curious, when I look at little Sally's, throat and stuff, sure, her tonsils are really, and then she's sucking her thumb. I'm wondering, how does she sleep at night? And she goes, and the mom might say, well, I think okay. How's she doing in school? Okay. And then we start putting it together, and you know what I'm getting at is they have no idea how to put that puzzle piece together, that it's their sleep. And I explain, that sleep apnea is basically mini episodes of suffocation. Mm-hmm. And that oxygen deprivation, especially for adults, is going to affect your cardiac health, your stroke rate, your just all that stuff, your brain health. But, with children, we just notice it in behavioral things. And I say, let's look at the medication list. And it's like, well, it looks like we've had the ADHD diagnosis before, and they're taking this medication. Have you ever thought about getting a sleep study? A sleep study? What for? Have you had those kinds of conversations? I imagine, because you're going more into the children's stuff than I do. What's that look like with your conversations?
Yes, absolutely. Conversations, and it goes both ways. Sometimes I'll have parents go, but you're a dentist.
Yes.
They think all we should be looking at is teeth, just Yep. because the awareness isn't there. And then on the other hand, then you'll have parents go, you see those light bulbs go off. That
Yes.
is my favorite appointment.
Yes, it is.
Like, I'm done for the day. Can I go home? I actually help somebody. But yeah, you'll have parents break down in the operatory because they're just here for a cleaning, and suddenly you've connected these dots for them. It all makes sense because you know your child. You know what your child is capable of. But then to see handwriting slipping, the child is constantly getting into trouble, or you have a teenager that is wetting their bed, or so much other behavioral issues, health issues in kids. And you're suddenly able to connect these dots for parents. And it just changes the resignation that they have of, I don't know what to do, or who else can help me. And suddenly they feel like they have answers. So it truly just changes how we practice, for sure.
So Meghna, how are you connecting with other doctors and spreading this awareness?
You mean the MDs, the medical community?
Yes.
By knocking on their doors. Literally, that's what it is. And same thing like we have with parents. I've had both experiences. I've had some MDs look at me like, what are you smoking today? Why are you talking to me about this? Mm-hmm. And then some that go, thank you. We knew there had to be a way for us to work together. But it's literally been, we have when we have patients, like when we're treating kids, I always send out letters to their pediatricians, their ENTs, any doctors that they may be seeing, to give them an update as to, hey, this is what's going on. So they know that this is something we are able to do. And then we also set up lunch and learns with the doctors in our community, the ENTs or the sleep specialists or even pediatricians, to just, this is what we are seeing, because there are signs and symptoms that we see in the mouth that we can connect the dots for the parents, and just having these conversations with them.
You are giving gold to our listeners today, Meghna. I appreciate that tremendously. Lunch and learns, connecting together with them.
Yes.
Meghna, can you tell us about your own patented device, wrapping up with going back to sleep specifically? I remember on our last podcast, I think it was last year that you were on with us, we were talking about a patented device. Do you have one?
Yes, we just applied for the non-provisional patent, which means it's in the final stages of getting everything. It's all been submitted to the, what is it, the Patent and Trademark, whatever it's called, the long big name, the government agency. But it's all been submitted. So yes, I have a patent out on a appliance for kids.
Oh, it's specifically for children. I didn't know that.
Yes, specifically for kids. And then once we get that going and have enough research, for lack of a better word, on it, for adults, it has to be designed a little differently, because for adults, you can only use appliances that are FDA approved. And then for kids, it's the other way around. So we'd have to change things or do things a little differently to see what we can do. But for now, it's my passion project, helping kids. So I'm super excited. We've actually used it on a few people within the practice, our kids, our patients, and I am super happy with the results. Super, super excited.
Now, this is because children can't wear CPAPs. Is that a correct assumption on my part?
So we do not want kids on a CPAP long term, just because of how the mask has to fit. It has to fit super tight around their nose and or mouth. And those straps actually can act as a reverse headgear, because it's going to prevent the growth of the premaxilla. The forward growth of their jaws does get impaired. So we're trying to give them air, but we're preventing them from growing. So it's a situation we don't want to be in. So if we can give kids another way to actually keep their airways open while we're growing them, that would be ideal.
Okay, so I've got an idea for helicopter moms, just mouth-to-mouth CPR all night.
Oh,
you know, like for the pediatric mouth-to-mouth CPR. What do you think? No. Okay. It was just an option. I'm just, right. Just vision boarding kind of ideas.
Are you vision boarding over there right now?
Reagan's like, what are you talking about? I'm sorry.
I heard silence.
I just must be in that mood today. Hey, also, Meghna, tell us about your your Facebook group, Nourish.
Book of Faces.
Yes.
Nourish is a cause very close to my heart. I started that group because I realized as dentists, it is, again, open just to dental professionals. I try to kind of keep it light and fun. And I realized that in our busy everyday lives, we forget how important nutrition is, how important nourishing our body and our mind. We forget to do that. So that was the purpose behind that group, was to bring all of us, everybody that suffers from what dentistry does to our bodies and our brains, just bring everybody together and be a support system, a resource to just nourish ourselves.
So tell me about nutrition over the last couple of years. It seems like you've really been on a kick with that. Tell us about that.
I have. Matter of fact, again, in my quest for answers, trying to connect everything together, I'm not sure if I told you this, I did do a 1-year residency in functional medicine
No.
No.
Because
I
why
did not know that.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, I don't have enough going on. But just to connect the dots, because I still felt that there were things missing. And it did give me a lot of answers. It did give me a different perspective to look into health. And again, with nutrition, to answer your question, what I did realize is, and I tie this in to especially when I see children for sleep apnea within the practice, the most common allergens, as I like to call them, or the big five, basically eliminating gluten, dairy, corn, soy, and sugar. How it changes your body. And a lot of these kids, I found that there are kids where I talk to mom about, and I always tell them, talk to your MD, because I am not allowed to practice medicine. Talk to your pediatricians, or I guide them to holistic practitioners around us. But I find kids that sometimes when they eliminate dairy produces mucus in our body. And if that child is having a hard time breathing through their nose, if they're mouth breathers, tonsils are doing what they're doing, making these shifts does change things. A lot of these moms come back and say that brain fog is gone, or they're not stuffy anymore, or they're, the mouth breathing is getting better because now they're able to breathe through their nose. So tying in all of that it's helped a great deal.
Back up just for a second. It was gluten, corn, dairy, sugar, and I missed the fourth one, I think you said.
Soy.
No soy boys. All right. I'm sorry. I was just taking notes. So those are all good information, and I really appreciate you coming on today. I think last time, I'm kind of curious whether Victoria, last time that she podcasted with you, asked you if you're a bacon or eggs kind of girl.
Eggs, because I'm vegetarian, so eggs it is.
Oh, all right. Bacon, eggs. Well done. Very cool. Also, in the last year, have you read any good books that you'd like to share with the listeners today?
Yes, actually, one that I'm reading currently called Atomic Habits by, have you read that one?
No, but I just like the title. It's
yes,
explosive.
It is amazing. It is amazing. So yes, that is a good book.
Okay, we'll check it out. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us as listeners today on a fun, whimsical, I don't know, maybe it's my day off, and so that just put me in a different mood. But thanks for playing with me, everyone. And as well, Dr. Dassani, thanks for joining us, me and Regan today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week.
See you soon.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with everyday practices.